Hi guys, in this video I'm going to attempt to sculpt from scratch a woolly rhino, or an Indrik for Oathmark.
Scruffy crow.
So far I've made this base. This is just a couple of corks taped together. There's actually a matchstick in the middle as well, to make it a bit more stable. And I've made this frame, so an Indrik fits on a 50mm base. So this guy will overlap a 50mm base, but I want it to look fairly imposing. I've used a bit of this sort of thicker wire, quite sturdy, and I've actually just held it together with a couple of dabs of super glue. And I've been looking at rhino skeletons to get a rough idea of the shape. But yeah, basically, so this is his tail, his spine. They tend to have a bit of a bump going down to a face, and then his horn, which is going to be huge. So that's the rough idea. For the bulk of this, if not all of it, I will be using Fimo Pro. This stuff is quite a bit harder than regular Fimo, which makes it a little bit harder to work with, but it holds detail a little bit better, and I find it better for sculpting big stuff. And then I've got some Fimo Soft that I might use to finish the fur off. So my first job is going to be to knead up some of this Fimo and get a bit of my body heat in there, and I'm going to sort of push out the general shape and sort of musculature of this guy, and I will make sure I overlap these crosses and make the whole thing a bit more sturdy. So I'll show you how that works out. I actually just had my dinner, and while the oven was cooling down, after we'd used it, I just popped this guy in with the door open. So it's not 100% cured, but it's enough to keep all my wire in place without actually using any extra, having to turn the oven on specifically for it or anything. So that was handy, and it means I've got a nice sturdy armature now to work on. Okay, quick video. All I've been doing here is just adding big blobs, thumbnail sized blobs of clay here and there, and just trying to push it into the rough shape. This is just a Google image search for Rhino. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm working off. So yeah, although I'm working off the pictures of rhinos, this is what we're kind of aiming for. This is more the Indrik, so a single horn is shown on most of these, and obviously woolly. The reason why I'm using the rhinos, I'm going to add the fur afterwards, so this is the sort of thing it's going to look like after, but I kind of figure that a rhino is kind of like a bold version of one of them, right? So we're basing the body shape off a rhino, and we're aiming for something like that. So I've bulked out my rhino, I've baked him, I've given him a bit more sides here, so he fits the profile from the top. So I'm still not worried about making any of this too smooth, because it's all going to be covered in fur. I started some work on his face. That started with a ball, and then I've just been putting successive layers of putty over the top to try and sort of emulate these sort of folds of skin. Once again, everything apart from the eye itself will be covered in fur. I've bulked up the horn a little bit, and we've been working around his mouth. There's no difference between the green and the red colours, it's just what I've got to hand. And then I've put a sort of sausage of green stuff around the base of each leg, and I've just sort of smoothed that in. So it was straight down, so now it's just got a flare, and now into the flare I'm carving these toes. I think we've got 3 toes by the looks of this guy. So yeah, 3 toes on each foot, and then like a toe on the back. So once again, this guy's got more detail in his foot than I'm actually going to give this one. I might do a nod towards that, but we're not trying to get too much detail, because obviously once again this guy is going to be furry. Okay, so I started from scratch with the eyes. I wasn't sure I liked them, so I scraped them off, and so I'm going to start again. So far they're just little blobs of putty. I've also done some work, made some little ears. They're just circles that were folded in half, stuck on. And the mouth here is a sausage that was sort of strung all the way around, and then has had these little sort of lip details just stroked into it, because that is a bit that you'll see from underneath the fur. So we'll start off with a little eye bag underneath like this, and we'll smooth that in. And then a second sausage that's just laid on there at the moment, and then I'll just smooth that in at the top, and that's the basics of how I make my eye. I'll either put some of the sort of eye wrinkles in there, or I'll do a couple more layers until I get it looking the way I want it. I've also beefed those shoulders up a little bit, like I said, just to give it a bit of better profile. Oh, I did the heel bumps, like I said I might. So I think profile-wise is looking pretty good. So there's a few differences that I'm not following off here, because I think this is a winter Arctic mountain species. So I've made the nostrils bigger, I don't know why, but I've made the eyes bigger because he's meant to be intelligent. I've made the ears a lot smaller because it's a cold weather animal, so it doesn't want to have big, you know, like this one here, big ears giving away all its heat. I changed the mouth. Some of the rhinos have this sort of pointed mouth. I'm not a rhino expert. This one has a flat mouth, pointed one, so I'm not sure. But this sort of seemed like the sort of thing you have if you were going to sort of crop some grass. Nice big lips, and the sort of the general shape, the higher front legs and the back legs is something that you see on woolly rhino pictures. So that's why there's some changes here. Okay, so this is the state I've got my hairless rhino to. So we've worked on his feet and his face. I've put a little bit of skin texture here and there. Might smooth a little bit of that out in a second actually. And I've got the oven on now. So he's going to get his final bake before his fur, I think, now. Okay. So the body is baked now. So it's time to put the fur on. But I have just been looking at these images for a Elasmotherium. And this is obviously a reconstruction. And I think this is what the Indrik is basically based on. And mine is looking suspiciously rhinocerosy rather than that. But one thing these do have in common, before I put the fur on, is these horns are a lot wider at the base than mine. Mine has quite a skinny single horn. So I think I am going to widen my horn out before I put my fur on. And I'm going to be using this for my fur. This is Fimo Soft. So this is considerably squidgier than the Fimo that I was using for the rest of it. Okay, what I'm doing at the moment is I'm sort of giving this guy a sort of skin of this softer putty. So what I'm doing is I'm just pressing out sort of sheets. So I'll show you one-handed of this. Nice big ovals. And I'm just sort of laying that over the body and just conforming that to the shapes. And I'm going to do that until all the bits that I want to be furry are covered. And then I'll start trying to get the fur texture in. Okay, now the rhino is completely covered in the new putty. Just exposing his lips and eyes and a few of bits. I have started making these little marks. So this is just something I googled. Someone had sculpting fur. I thought that looks alright. So I'm just doing that. I'm starting at the bottom. I'm just working up little line by line by line, and that is what one side looks like. And I'm happy with that as a jumping off point. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to do all the fur like that. And here he is, completely furry using that technique. So leaving some bare skin around his eyes and mouth and nose there to kind of match these pictures that we're working from. The horn still needs a bit of definition, but I'm going to bake that again and do some work there. I might put some more ridges in though. As for the fur, so this is what it looks like at the moment. And this is a little bit here that I'm kind of more happy with. These sort of more overlapping triangular bits. So I think I'm going to go around the whole body and literally just spend the next hour or two just looking at every single bit of fur. And so bits like this sort of balled up bit in the centre there, removing them, and just making it a lot neater. Some of this sort of bobbly aspect that you can kind of see on the edge there, that'll get removed after it's baked. So anything that's not attached will bake hard, and then I'll just be able to sort of scrub that off. So I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, so I'm just going to go and try and neaten this up and sort of give it a bit more attention, fur by fur. One thing actually that I should point out that I did sort of almost subconsciously, but then can try to work into it, is places like his face and some of the bottoms of his legs, I've purposely done sort of smaller strokes, and then the shoulders and down the spine here, and on the top of his head, I've done these longer strokes to try and make those bits look sort of shaggier, whereas these bits are kind of furrier. You can't really tell from this shot at the moment, but I reckon once you're painted you might be able to tell the difference a bit better. So my Rhino has had his final cure, and I'm pretty happy with him. Let's get him off here. I'm just going to take my knife around now and I'm just going to remove any excess clay that I didn't want. This stuff carves like a relatively soft plastic at this sort of stage, so this is no trouble at all. Here is a 50mm renderer base that I reclaimed from something, and I did notice a second ago that he is a little bit large to fit on this properly. So I'm going to try and put him as far back as we can get away with, and hopefully we can make him work in a game. I might make a second attempt at a slightly smaller one now I've seen this, but this guy still looks pretty cool, so I'm going to stick him down. Got a bit of just standard super glue here. And I'm putting those back feet as far back as I can get away with. Okay, here's the first couple of layers of paint. This is Rhinox hide, then highlighted with a couple of mixes of Zandri dust, with a bit of P3's Great Coat Grey on the horn. I'm probably going to do the face parts. In a quite a human sort of colour, I think. Because I think that'll work well with the rest of the army. And then I'll highlight this up to grey on the tip, and then it'll be done. I don't think I'm going to worry too much about the feet. The ankles, I'll do the skin colour. And here's the final product. I finished painting him. This is my normal skin tone, highlighted the horn like I said, and this is some Luke APS Scribblin's basing just on the bottom here, match those to my army. Here's how he scales up next to my dwarves that he'll be fighting alongside. Kind of looks a bit sheepish, doesn't he? Not my most complicated sculpt ever, but he's certainly usable. I might try and do a second version of this, where the legs would be closer together, be more bumped, a bit more of a stylised look, try and get a bit more motion into it, because it's obviously very static, but that's just because it was easier to sculpt, because I've never tried sculpting a four-legged creature before. But yeah, if there's a monster in the book you don't have, and you can't find a good one, have a go at making one yourself. And that's all for this video. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments. Maybe subscribe for more. And as ever, thanks for watching. Bye.